Hi, everybody. It's your friend Adam. I am finally live here. I was having some microphone issues, but I won't go too deeply into that. But thank you for showing up. I think one person in the comment section was like, I miss Saturday morning streams. And I thought, well, I'm still getting up early on Saturday morning. Maybe I'll stream a bit and see if people are interested. Is this a time slot that's available for people? So I was streaming every Saturday morning with my friend Isaac, who I've communicated with since our big blow up online, which actually I think it got like 10,000 views, which is kind of unheard of for my channel. But yeah, I think, I haven't really had a chance to really talk to him for a long period of time because he's working on some other stuff and I'm working on some other stuff. But I don't know. We may do like a final resolve stream to let everyone know that yes, indeed, we're still friends. we're still friends. We might have to resign not to talk about politics ever again, but so I'll let you know. Obviously, there'll be some closure there for you guys. Some people were giving me a hard time saying, yeah, Adam, weren't you saying like you're an idiot if you lose friends over politics? Weren't you saying you're a jerk? You're a loser if you lose friends over politics? And yeah, actually, people were saying that. I see you guys in the chat saying friend, friend, friend. Should I downgrade it to acquaintance? My acquaintance Isaac. I don't know. I've known Isaac for a long time, so it would be difficult for us to like go the rest of our lives without talking to one another. And even when I said, I'm happy to maintain the niceties, but I don't really trust you too much right now. I left it at, yeah, we're still gonna obviously hang out and stuff like that. Our wives are friends, so it's gonna be difficult to it's gonna be difficult to unfriend Isaac. But so somebody sent me this. God, I should keep better tabs on who sent this to me. Let me look it up on Twitter really quickly here, see if I can find who sent this to me. I had requested stuff that we could stream about. I watched like maybe 2 minutes of this, and it's pretty interesting. So I already have lots to say about it, but let me give a shout out to, let's see, Eddie's Last Stand, who always sends me lots of good stuff, sent this to me. So if you're listening right now, I don't know if I've seen a Eddie's Last Dance in here. Oh, what's up, Aiden? How you doing? See, this is am I on British time right now? I guess maybe I am. So 87 viewers already, which is, I mean, those are pretty solid numbers for my channel. And people are obviously only here for my silky smooth radio voice. Nobody likes my takes. Everyone always insults my takes. Adam, why are you talking about MMT? Why are you talking about 12-year-olds voting? Why are you talking about all this stupid shit? Well, people like to talk about that stuff. People like to argue with me about that stuff. So, I satiate your appetite to argue with somebody about meaningless nonsense on the internet. This is called keeping the channel open. This is called interacting with your friends and family. So this is a natural thing humans do. We gather around the campfire and we argue about stuff. It's great fun. People enjoy doing it. I enjoy doing it. So let's listen to a little bit of this video. And Sitch and I did a live stream on our Sunday show where we evaluated the debate between Richard Marx and Destiny. Surfs was moderating. It was a super interesting debate. Richard Wolff is boring as hell because Richard Wolff has repeated things that he says over and over and over again. He just says them over and over and over again. We've heard them all a bazillion times. He backs none of them up with evidence. He brings nothing new to the table. He's all of his insights are from 100 to how long ago was Marx? That's like 200 years ago, right? All of his insights are based on a philosopher that just validates his moral intuitions. He went back to, it's funny that they hate Ben Shapiro because this is my big critique of Ben Shapiro's book. Ben Shapiro has a bunch of moral intuitions inside of him that he wants to validate. So a lot of people go to historical philosophers, and they pick and choose the historical philosophers that validate their point of view. They don't bring any science to the issue to basically bolster their claims. They just point to these philosophers. And if you there's a philosopher in history that said virtually every single thing that you could possibly say. So this is a tried and true method to just find somebody who's from the ancient past, which gives them the sense of authority. Because, if someone's managed to stick around for 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, it's easy to make an argument that there's something to this. There is something interesting going on here that can validate some intuition that we have. One of the reasons why I like Dictator's Handbook so much is because they go through the political philosophers and they actually back up which political philosophers got it right with modern social science, which is like, I know social science is in the toilet right now because of the gender feminists came in and pretty much took it over. But there are economics. Economics is technically a social science. I hate to spoil it. Actually, I should present a trigger warning before I say this. Yes, economics is a social science. Behavioral economics is a social science. So there is something to be learned from social science. Jonathan Haidt is probably the most famous living social psychologist alive, which sociology, social science. So we can learn something from social science, but going back to cherry picking from history to find the philosopher that validates what you're saying today, right now, I don't give a lot of credence to that. It's a great starting point. And one of the reasons why I love Jordan Peterson is because he he does the exact same thing. He dives into these philosophical, traditional ideas that have been with us forever, and he tries to validate them with modern science, which it's great. It's completely great. We should be doing that. We should be picking through the wisdom of the past and finding out why it is actually wisdom, digging down to the deeper meaning of why it is wisdom, why it is something that has lasted this long. What moral intuitions does it excite? So I find this this debate very fascinating. I always try, whenever anything comes up, any controversy or anything like that, I try to trace it back to what moral intuitions are motivating this controversy. There's another thing that I might talk about. Somebody wanted me to talk about. There's an article about manga, calling out manga for rampant sexism and misogyny. The article was in Bounding into Comics. Manga is far more traditional, I'd say. Manga is probably where comics were 20 years ago now, and they're not stripping out all of the things that social justice has basically taken away from comics. But I have interesting things to say about that, because it's still the same problem. I look to it and I say, what moral intuitions are driving this controversy? And I think that's like the best starting place for anything. If you want to get to the bottom of why the controversy exists, what's going on here, you got to ask what moral intuitions are driving this show. So I think the moral intuitions behind the communist is they hate, it's liberty, it's the Liberty Oppression Foundation. They hate the idea that people are above them in the social hierarchy. It drives them insane. I guess a lot of it's jealousy, really. I mean, if you have if you have a lot of hatred towards people above you in the social hierarchy, and hatred drives most of this stuff. It ain't love driving the show most of the time. It's like, what makes me angry? What do I hate? What do I hate more than anything? And always look for what people hate before you look for what people love. I hate, and it's true for me too. You always got to turn it on yourself. You got to say, what is it that's driving me? I hate, fake news. I hate people talking about shit that's patently untrue. The recent dust up with Academic Agent is, I hate him straw manning MMT. I hate him going out and lying about shit. I hate that. I hate it. We got to get to the truth. I'm a truth seeker. So I see a Grassroots Dictator in the chat. I see Aiden Paladin in the chat. I see Robert Romano in the chat. I see Derek Drummond in the chat. What's up, guys? Good to see you this morning. So let's watch a little bit of this video, and obviously I'll comment on it. If you have any questions for me, obviously you can at me is probably a good way to go.
From your circles, but I had a very large portion of the online left. They were furious for even organizing that, saying this was beneath Richard and all this kind of stuff.
And the idea that someone who has a real name would rename himself Destiny struck me as somewhere between 3 and 3.5 years of age in terms of maturity. But in any case,
but you're talking to a guy called the Serfs.
So, yeah. Well, you know, the Serfs has some, you know, I like that because that's what we are in many ways.
See, it's cool when the Serfs does it because the Serfs is basically on his side. He's like, yeah, when we act like immature 3-year-olds, it's cool because, you know, you're on my team. But when Destiny does it, he's not on my team. It's so obvious. It's so obvious what's going on here. It's just rank tribalism.
And there is a substance, Destiny.
The Serfs talking about you. Oh, cool. All right.
Ask him if you watched Cowboy Bebop. I could talk to him about Cowboy Bebop. I'm sure. I could ask him, is Cowboy Bebop going to be in the socialist future as well? Thoughts on the DGG long text memes?
Well, you have to. You're gonna have to go talk to your workers' council and hope that they want to make that anime for you.
Man, this start of the show is gonna get clipped and shipped. People already think like I'm an absolute clown for having thrown that debate in different leftist circles. Oh, but that's my point. That's my point about
See, the Serfs is getting in huge trouble for throwing the debate because the debate went badly. Isn't that great how they have to structure any debate? It's so obvious that they're not searching for truth. If they have to structure every single debate so it is a unmitigated win, and all of the wins are based strictly on rhetoric. It's not based on whose ideas are closer to truth. It's based on who has the better rhetoric, who looked better in the debate. Destiny obviously looked way better in that debate because just Richard Wolff's rhetoric is so outdated, so meaningless, so vacuous, so unintelligent. It's like wrong on its face. It's so easy to destroy. I don't know why. I guess it's a good thing that Richard Wolff is all they have. All they have is Richard Wolff because Richard Wolff is on his face just an idiot. Nobody else wants to step up. You kind of have to be an idiot to step in there and say, you know, these ideas of co-ops and there's so many good counter arguments against the idea of co-ops and socialism and communism and all the things that they want to argue. You really have to be grossly uninformed to step in there and argue those things. I think some very smart people do step in there and argue those things when they are uninformed. And as soon as they start seeing the arguments against them, they're like, okay, well, I have to turn this ship around. This is not going to work. There's too many good arguments against me. But on social media, we have an interesting phenomenon going on here where people get embedded into these communities. And once they blow up, like obviously Vaush can never turn around on socialism because he's got this massive community behind him. Their moral intuitions are driving his behavior. He's literally just an extension of his audience. The interesting thing about Destiny is Destiny isn't going to let his audience put the puppet hand up his ass and manipulate him for money. Destiny is comfortable with the fact that Destiny's basically a truth seeker. He's not going to make arguments that he thinks are factually incorrect. And he's strong enough in his personal attitude to be able to say to people, you know, I don't care if you don't like it, but I was wrong on this position. I'm going to change my position based on the facts. Most people are just not strong enough to do that. I mean, Sitch and I pride ourselves on that kind of strength too, but I mean, I don't want to talk a lot of shit while Sitch isn't here. We talk. Obviously, Sitch and I talk mad shit about one another in front of each other, but I don't want to talk mad shit when he can't. I'll say one thing. It is well known that people constantly ask Sitch, where have you? Well, has Sitch changed his opinion on anything? I'm not sure. Oh, I guess he has. He prides himself on changing his opinion on the Mueller report because new evidence came out. So there is that. Yes, you got to point to something where you've changed your opinion. I've changed my opinion on UBI. I never had a firm opinion on UBI. I always said that UBI was something that I would want to work because obviously I could make it work in my life. I think the problem is I don't know that most people could make it work in their life. So UBI would be very good for probably 20 to 30% of the population and very bad for probably 70% of the population. And that I include in that 70% of the population it would be bad for would be like business owners and entrepreneurs, because how do you start a business in a UBI environment? I don't know that you can. It would be a huge struggle. And we need businesses and we need that kind of stuff. In MMT, they talk about how UBI won't work because who produces the stuff? Like the stuff is the biggest part of the equation that nobody's talking about. They keep trying to get people to talk about that part of the equation. How do you get people to produce the stuff? This is the same problem with Richard Wolff and worker co-ops. How do you start a business in a worker co-op environment? It seems impossible. It seems ridiculous. Richard Wolff never answers those questions either. He goes into a rhetorical screed for 45 minutes and doesn't say anything. So I haven't watched any of this video. This video could be stellar. Let's get in. Obviously, I talk a lot.
Twitter, and when you get to a certain point, like I have now,
so that's like one of my key indicators for success. Whenever people are really mad that something happened, it usually means that like they are unhappy with the performance of the person that they say like dominated. Because you have to imagine, like, let's say that we go on and let's say that like I don't know anything. Like I don't know what the stock market is. I don't know what socialism, blah 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 blah. And Richard Wolff just completely on me, right? Nobody is saying like you shouldn't have had that debate. It was irresponsible. That debate was horrible. They'd always sound like, oh, finally we can have somebody showcase like how clueless this guy is. Like, oh my god, like epic ownage. Like, did you see Richard Wolff totally destroy and eviscerate that dumb blah blah blah? But when people are saying things like you shouldn't have done that, that was irresponsible, it's not a good format, then you know they're upset because they didn't feel like their side performed that well. Yeah. That
is a great insight by Destiny. It really is. It's totally right on the money. It's the moral intuitions that are driving that ship is we look like idiots. This guy made us look like a moron. What? Why did you do this, Serfs? Don't you know Sitch and Adam are going to review this and laugh for 10 hours about it? Why would you put us in this situation? Why would you put us in? Adam doesn't know anything. My God, why would you put us in a situation where Adam is laughing at us for 10 hours? You maniac. I have a tough time disliking Lance because Lance has actually been pretty cool with me. So as long as you're cool with me, I'm going to be cool with you. I disagree with him on everything, but I mean, he seems like a personable fellow, even though we disagree on politics.
And then all of a sudden, people who I thought used to like me were quote tweeting me like, "This was disgusting. The Serfs did this."
And the Serfs is totally keeping it real here. The left came at like the Serfs might be on our side in a month if people keep coming at him for this stuff. He went out of his way. Man, it must have been difficult as fuck to set this up too. A debate with Richard Wolff and Destiny. That's like a huge get. Like props to him for doing it. And then all the left does is like go after him because Richard Wolff is incompetent. It's not the Serfs' fault that Richard Wolff is incompetent. Why are you blaming the Serfs for this? Blame the guy that showed up in a suit and doesn't know jack shit about anything. Oh, but we can't blame Richard Wolff. Are you kidding? He's the avatar of our authority. He's the one. He's a professor. He wears a suit and tie. He makes us look good. We can't go after him. Let's go after the little guy, the YouTuber. Let's go after the serfs.
Disgusting they would do this for the points, for the Twitter, like, social media score.
Ba-dum-bum.
Hello, Richard. Can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you fine.
Can you see me this time?
Okay, for those of you who don't know what's going on and maybe are just listening. So Destiny, somebody messaged Destiny a video that Richard Wolff is talking to the serfs after the debate. So they're doing a post-debate follow-up. The debate was between Richard Wolff and Destiny. Destiny pretty much destroyed Richard Wolff. Richard Wolff looked like a moron. We covered it on our Sunday show. Like, Richard Wolff was so demoralized by the end of the debate. It's like he was searching through his desk for a stapler for like 25 minutes. It was hilarious. The optics of it were terrible. Lance asked Richard Wolff a softball question, and Richard Wolff completely fumbled it. Lance asked him a question about whether or not in the communist utopia you would be able to get your PS5, your PlayStation 5. And Richard Wolff basically said that you would have to have a debate with your coworkers about it first and make sure that everyone was cool with you buying your PlayStation 5 before you could actually get one. That's not what people want to hear. Give me my fucking PlayStation 5, you communist moron. That is not what people want to hear. So, and then after the fact, Lance kind of snuck in, oh, that question was mine. Which, I mean, Lance, you should have left that out of there. No one needed to hear that. And it's probably why people were giving you such a hard time on social media. It was a softball question, though. It's not Lance's fault that Richard Wolff fumbled a huge softball question like that. But so Destiny now is reviewing this aftermath talk between them. Destiny's not part of the conversation. The conversation is between Richard Wolff and Lance.
I can see you. You've got a blue shirt.
I do.
and
It
you've
says
got,
it says abolish ICE. It's
Now,
a
would we
play
call
on
that
the
blue, or
old,
we say, well, it's
the
not
Slurpee
red,
logo.
it's not green. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry.
That joke is funny from the debate, because in the debate, Richard Wolff kept classifying socialism or capitalism. I can't remember which one, as what it was not, instead of just giving a definition of what it was. So that's why he's making that joke.
good, and I can see a plant behind you and a doll and a mirror door and all kinds of stuff.
There's a number of plants. Yes. How is life? How are you doing?
Fine.
That long pause said, I'm unemployed. That did not say fine. That long pause said, my wife is leaving me. These are all obviously speculations. Okay. I'm speculating here, but that long pause was a little telling. How are you? I'm fine, I guess.
I never got a chance to hear whether you were happy or unhappy with brokering that interaction with Destiny.
Why are you going to do this on a live stream in front of everyone? Why would you ask that question in front of everyone? Were you happy with my performance? Here, let me rate your performance. Well, first of all, Lance isn't in a position. I'll just go out on a limb here. Prediction. Lance is going to say he did well, maybe. I don't know. Maybe he's going to say he didn't do good. Let's find out.
I was very happy with it. I'll be honest. I was going to ask you about what kind of backlash you got in terms of from your circles, but I had a very large portion of the online left. They were furious for even organizing that, saying this was beneath Richard and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, well, okay, I'll give you my personal opinion. That reached close to, I think, 40,000 people watched that live between all of the different streams we had, and I think that was a golden opportunity to expose a lot of people to some of these ideas. But I'd love to hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, they're not interested in exposing people to their ideas when the people are just going to laugh about their ideas and dismiss them out of hand for being ridiculous. That's the problem. They're like, Lance, you don't understand how socialism works, okay? You got to propagandize people this. You can't throw it out there just for everyone to see all naked and untailored, okay? You have to tailor the message here. We have to focus group what people are going to like in order to sell these policies that nobody wants.
Well, the good news, I agree with you. That's why we did it. I mean, I didn't, to be honest with you, I hope I don't reveal anything terrible here. I didn't know who Destiny was. And the idea that someone who has a real name would rename himself Destiny struck me as somewhere between 3 and 3.5 years of age in terms of maturity. But in any case,
But you're
I didn't
talking
know
to a
who
guy
it
called the Serfs. So-
yeah.
Good
Well,
one.
the
Good
Surf
one.
has some, I like that because that's what we are in many ways. And there is a substance, Destiny anyway.
This is the exact same hubris of communism right here. This is the exact same hubris. Like, I went into a debate with a person that I knew absolutely nothing about. This is the same exact hubris that this guy displays in his ideas about communism. Oh, worker co-ops, here's how you structure them. I know absolutely nothing about how the economy works. I know absolutely nothing about running a business or anything, but let me tell you how things are done. Oh my God. This is why it always ends up in famine.
God, get
So
me on here again. If we want to go hard,
we talked about it and we were appreciative of your taking the initiative to think about doing it and all that.
no more kids gloves, guys.
But I have an enormous schedule. I don't know about you guys, but I could be doing this, what I'm about to do with you. I could be doing it all day, every day, 7 days a week. I mean, look, part of me is grateful. I never expected in my life to have the opportunity that I now have. So I please understand me. Part of me is thrilled that there's an audience for the leftist stuff I do on a scale like that. So I'm grateful. I really am. On the other hand, it's friggin' overwhelming. It intrudes. You have to schedule going to the bathroom. It's kind of weird.
That's Rick's name.
Anyway, so what we tend to do is we have to come up with reasons not to do it because there's so many opportunities to do it. So we, like many groups, we also take a look, among other things, at the size of the audience. And it was clear to us that this would be a sizable audience, and B, an audience we don't have that many opportunities probably to talk to or to.
That's all they look at is the size of the audience. Richard Wolff came out famously and challenged Jordan Peterson to a debate. I guess they had a debate lined up before Jordan Peterson blew up and was making umpteen $1 million to speak. So Jordan Peterson ended up backing out of that debate, and Richard Wolff was super butthurt about it. He went to the internet, made a video challenging Jordan Peterson to a debate. I actually made a response video to that debate on my Think Club channel that I think it's over 1 million views now. Jordan Peterson commented on the video, pitching his new book. Well, he wrote an intro to Gulag Archipelago, and he was pitching that book on the comment. I believe it's the pinned comment there. Obviously, Jordan Peterson comments on your video, and you're going to pin the comment. So, but yeah, the reason Richard Wolff wanted to debate Jordan Peterson, guess, you guys, what do you think it is? Jordan Peterson has a massive audience. Yes, you got to get your ideas in front of people. But the real key is to get people to accept those ideas. Not by force, not by gun barrel, okay?
To reach. And I'm happy that it happened because of all of that.
Well,
we got
also-
we got a lot of feedback. And a good bit of it was consistent with what you just said. And some of it wasn't very nice. Like, why are you doing this? What a waste of your time. You're making this crap that they do somehow more legitimate. You shouldn't be doing, all of that.
you're what he means by this crap that they do, he means honest criticism of your economic system. You're making this honest criticism of you're legitimizing their honest criticism of your economic system. A lot of YouTube, the fascinating thing about YouTube is people understand you got to make this stuff entertainment. People don't generally care about economics. People generally don't care about political issues. They don't. A lot of the nation does not care about political issues. I think 40% of eligible voters don't even vote. If you want people to be interested in this stuff, you have to make it entertaining. Yes, that's what you have to do. You have to sell it with jokes and fun and laughter and playful ribbing, that kind of thing. It can't be stuffy academia nonsense. So that's something that I think is actually better for society. I think it's better to get more people involved on these ideas, more people giving their take on it. That's how we find truth. All of us truth seekers are like one neuron in a giant brain, and between us, through the dialogue of society, we come to truths that are tangibly useful, pragmatically useful. I think I might have missed a couple of super chats. Maybe I should read some. Maybe I should read those.
But we got a good bit of people saying that it went well, and that a lot of these arguments were heard by people who don't hear them very often, and that it was useful that way. And
Well, I wanted
the
to
end
say
result
too.
was we think we got what we hoped to get.
Mhm. Well, I wanted to say
Sorry,
too, though.
what'd you say?
Well, I wanted to say there was this weird condescension that I found too of people being like, "This is beneath you because it's not academic." Because he's somehow speaking to someone who doesn't have like a tenureship or something or of that nature. But I just found that really condescending because I was like, that seems out of touch to me. There's thousands of people who watch and look up to Destiny, who can be exposed to like some of these principles or theories. Like I don't.
I just have to point out here. I apologize. I'm pausing so much, but that take is so fucking elitist. So fucking elitist. These are the people who are supposed to be. This guy literally calls himself the serfs. These guys are supposed to be for the working man. What a fucking elitist nut job. Oh, hey, guess what? A lot of good ideas come straight from the working man. That's the whole idea behind capitalism. Most new inventions are created out of man's laziness. Man wants to work the least amount as humanly possible. Therefore, he automates his job away. He comes up with a way that he doesn't have to actually do the job. Some automated gizmo is going to do the job for him.
Don't think the idea behind understanding socialism should be relegated to academia exclusively. That seems ridiculous.
Absolutely. No, and on the contrary, if they're limited to academia, they're never going to get to the kind of social change that they ostensibly favor. I mean, absolutely. But I've spent my whole life in American academia. It is a realm that engages in this kind of prestige mongering around academic credentials.
Oh,
That's horrific.
God.
I mean, I don't mind
Chat.
telling you,
I got a job
because
in a
I
gas
went
station I
to the
live
fanciest
500
schools
feet
that-
next to.
I love how Destiny's super chats just read themselves. It's like, what the heck? Well, since Destiny's super chat interrupted already, let me interrupt again and say, Grassroots Dictator for $5 says, Adam, George Alexopoulos would be great to talk to about comics, manga. Also, bring on Baden Paladin, or we riot in the chat. AP class rise up. Aiden Paladin, if she wants to come on, she's more than welcome to come on. You guys, your rioting is not necessarily good for YouTubers, because sometimes YouTubers don't necessarily want to come on just because they want to hang out in the chat with you guys. So it's not universally, every time I drop a comment in the chat section, I don't necessarily have the ability or desire to go on every single stream. So if Aiden wants to come on, let me know in the chat and I'm happy to send her a link. Obviously, she has an open invitation. And the George Alexopoulos, I did a live stream with, because I guess he was Comicsgate at one time and then drifted away from Comicsgate, sort of became anti-Comicsgate. I did a live stream with him trying to get to the bottom of it, and he was unhappy with the results of that live stream, I would say, and ended up blocking me afterwards. But I have nothing against George, and if George wants to talk, I'm like, after that live stream, I thought we were going to talk again anyway. So a Drunken Shovel for $2 says, Wolf, you criticize me and that's just mean. Yes, exactly. That's 90% of this, right? I mean, that's what's going on here. That's what's driving the show. Let's see. I got a couple more that I think I can actually put up. Brian Bishop for $5 says, Richard Wolf is a lolcow of the highest order. Maybe Destiny made him realize it. I agree. I agree with the first half of that super chat, Brian. He is a lolcow of the highest order. I don't know if he's capable of realizing that. Maybe so. Maybe he realizes his day is done. He's older now. He probably doesn't want to be doing this kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe this is something fun for him to do in his retirement. Who knows? Jimmy Mulligan for $10 says, communists. The workplace should be ran democratically. Also, communists, you have no degree. Therefore, your opinion is irrelevant. Thinking man emoji. Yes, exactly. The people are coming to realize that hypocrisy doesn't really change people's minds. It is fun to point out, though. You got to admit, the hypocrisy is fun to point out. And I think it's interesting to point out, because generally when you're pointing out hypocrisy, you're pointing out things that are invisible to that side. Like the comment that Jimmy just made, probably invisible to serfs and the Richard Wolfs of the world. They don't realize that they're being pretty much straight elitists on most of this stuff. I can't remember I'm struggling to remember his name. There's a book coming out. I can't remember the name of the author, but it's basically called The Elect, and it's about these elitist people who basically want to structure society according to their own moral intuitions. So if you can remember the name of the author, it's one of the black guys from Blogging Heads TV, Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter. That's it. It's John McWhorter. Yeah, I can't wait to read that book. It sounds fascinating. Drunk Shovel for $2 says, wrench communism. Wrenches for the workers. Haven't I given most of you guys wrenches? I believe so. I got a lot of wrenches out there. Let me get back to the video here.
By the way, where did you hear about Star Sector, Stephen? That game has been my cocaine for the past few
times
weeks
in my
after I've
life
seen you
where
play
my
the
politics got me in trouble.
Glory to Pepe.
I got out of the trouble by waving my pedigree in people's faces, and they backed off. Like the devil, when you wave the garlic, he takes off because it's scary, or there's something about devils that doesn't go with garlic.
Do you mean vampires?
Yeah, or something like that, But, you tell people you went to Harvard and Yale, and they think, somehow something special happened there, and by the way, you might enjoy this. I have an easier time persuading people about the virtues of socialism than I have explaining to people that the Harvard-Yale business is fake. They don't want to hear that. I'm talking left of center audiences.
Yeah, your audience doesn't want to hear that the Harvard Yale system is fake. The right definitely is up to speed on how Harvard and Yale is fake. And I would actually go out on a limb here and say that Richard Wolff would not get into Harvard present day. Harvard entrance requirements were much less stringent when Richard Wolff went in. The competition right now, Richard Wolff probably wouldn't make the cut. Definitely wouldn't make the cut.
When you say fake, what do you mean?
Here's a metaphor I would use. If you turn on the TV and there's an advertisement for soap, a bar of soap, and the advertisement says, use this bar of soap and your sex life will really get much better. You giggle because you understand that it's soap and that they're trying to sell the soap. So the soap is going to they're going to make claims. You're not going to take it seriously. You're going to find it vaguely amusing, end of it. Harvard and Yale give you an education. They teach you courses. That's about it. The rest of it is fake. It's just, you should giggle. You just giggle.
Oh, you mean the pedigree? Like what? Like the certification or?
Yeah, the only thing, the quality of education is, and I mean this, I'm not playing with you. It's mediocre. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. You'd be if what you want is a really good education in which people who've done a lot of thinking and reading and writing sit down with you and help you work through study, then you're much better off to go to a small 4-year liberal arts college stuck away in the woods of Vermont or some other place where you can knuckle down and really do that and do
the college system is a caste system. It really is. If you're going to be one of the nation's elites, which you're born into that kind of thing. It's not, I mean, I'm not in favor of it. I'm in favor of good old fashioned meritocracy, but the college system is very much an elite system. This is why the Harvard and Yale are as expensive as they are, because you're going to go to school with other rich people who you're going to eventually go into business or politics with these other rich people. It's a caste system. It's very much a caste system. Why Richard Wolff is so popular is because he's a member of that caste system. It's funny that he's against caste systems.
Do it with a supportive group of people who give a crap about teaching. But if that's what you want, don't go to Harvard. And I had no idea what I was getting into. So for people like me, and I'm the norm, it probably didn't make all that much difference. We had no idea what we wanted. If you had asked me, what do you want out of college? I wouldn't have known what to say anyway. It was something I did because everybody like me did that. And my parents had been given the idea that's what their kids should do. So I did it. But here is the difference. You meet the right people because they're working their ass off to get the rich, the well-connected, the elites. They want their kids at Harvard and Yale, so they turn the world upside down to get that done. And so you're going to meet those people. If that's of interest to you, fine. If it isn't, nothing. And the last thing you get is you get a pedigree over and over again. Look, let me be blunt. My guess is if I didn't go to those schools,
as a European, I have no idea about this. Is Ivy League school overrated in terms of quality of
conversation?
education?
Because
Depends
my
on what you're going for.
trajectory would not have ended me up.
Well, yeah, it does depend upon what you're going for. If you're going to be in politics, yeah. Yeah, if you're going to be successful in politics, an Ivy League degree is going to be very helpful. If you're going to be invited into these elite industries, then yes, Ivy League all the way.
In this situation,
like if you're going to law school, it's incredibly important.
People just think something
Like medical school,
super
maybe not as much.
happens when you go to these places. It doesn't.
But you could have ended up as a soap salesman.
Yes, I could have. And by the way, in that university,
Undergrads
I
at
go into
Ivy
Harvard
Leagues, I don't know if that matters at
accountant
all.
for a great deal. But listen, in my PhD in my Yale class, my classmate was Janet Yellen. So I know Janet Yellen, and Janet Yellen knows me.
See, I know Janet Yellen from class. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Janet Yellen, I believe, isn't Janet Yellen head of the Federal Reserve right now? Here, I'll look it up.
But I mean, the
you
connections
get
and everything you get are
when
also
you go
always
there.
good, no
You
matter
get
what you
that.
end up.
Connections.
You know, and that may mean nothing. On the other hand, if I pick up the phone and I call and I say who I am and I'd like to speak to Janet Yellen, she might actually pick up the phone. Not because of
Janet Yellen is the United States Treasury Secretary. So yeah, evidently they went in a different direction than Richard Wolff for the Treasury Secretary.
who I am and what I'm saying, but because she has a memory.
Mhm.
And you know, she remember, oh yeah, that guy, you know, you know, and people make careers out of that crap, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I wanted to ask you, would you be comfortable, because I'm obviously not going to do like a drama stream or anything, but going through some of the arguments and some of the problems that both people on the left and the center and the right brought up from that debate for clarification?
yeah, if you
Cool. We're gonna get into actual substance here. I was getting a little nervous here. This was drifting into like giant boredom for a second.
if you think, I mean, this is your program and your audience. I'm at your disposal. If you think that would be of interest and engagement, absolutely.
Well, I mean,
Fine.
reading from the audience right now, they're mostly interested in soap and where they can find it. But I'm
Yes.
gonna supersede them. All right. I'll
Right.
I'll ask about the debate. So one of the questions that people on the left were upset about is they said that Richard Wolff basically doesn't speak about abolishing markets, that his form, which is probably defined more as market socialism than it is actual socialism, is concerned obviously with worker ownership, co-ownership of the means of production. However, he doesn't go as far as say something that Marx would do in like then Greece or in some of his other writing, where he specifically lays out that the commodity production also has to meet demand, right? And so in your version, you've got the market still existing and them still influencing people and to purchase ultimately. So what would you say to that?
There's a number of ways of responding to that. I'm going to be a little blunt in order to get to kind of the meat of the issue.
Oh boy.
And so I'll overstate slightly, but it'll make the point. We don't need Marx for a critique of markets. The critique of markets is way older than Marx and lots of other people. For me, for example, reading the fictional works of Balzac in French, you get a fantastic critique of markets. The whole transition from feudalism to capitalism, which was marked by the extent of the market.
Oh my God, we're going to enough about feudalism already. What is your obsession with feudalism? Let it go. Let it go. Just let it go, Richard. Dick, listen to me. Let it go.
Into all aspects of our lives.
It's like a greatest hits
Occasion
meme.
A vast outpouring of people horrified by this quid pro quo exchange, by this way of getting goods from the producer to the consumer, by a bargaining in a market. I'll give you 3 of my oranges if you give me 2 of your shirts. That there had to be better ways, people thought, ways from feudalism and even earlier systems, because this kind.
That thing that he just said is actually called the coincidence of wants. It's something that is disputed in the historical understanding of economics, whether or not the coincidence of wants was ever a thing, whether or not barter was ever. I mean, barter obviously happens. It happens today in our economy, but whether or not any like large economies were structured on barter, seems to be a contested historical question and a contested question in economics. The most prominent belief is that it is in economics, in the field. Well, no, not in the field of economics. In the field of economics, it is the most prominent belief that barter was at one time a thing. In archaeology, sociology, in all these other fields, it's commonly thought to be quite different, and barter was never actually a huge part of any economy.
Kind of quid pro quo is a denial of all of the other things that ought to shape the distribution of goods and services. It shouldn't be that I get 3 oranges because I give you 4 shirts. You ought to be able to get 3 oranges for thousands of reasons, because you're hungry, because your children are hungry, because you've been eating too much of other stuff and you need some fruits, or, you know,
because you've been drugged out for 3 days and haven't done anything. Haven't earned any money to buy oranges, and you're famished. This is so ridiculous. This is so ridiculous.
Million considerations that ought to play a role, rather than saying, you get the oranges if you got enough shirts, Jack. So for me, I don't want or need Marx to give me a critique of markets. Let me put it another way.
It's so weird, because he's basically saying you should be able to get oranges regardless of whether or not you put any effort into producing those oranges. You should be the beneficiary of oranges simply for just existing. He takes the whole idea of fairness as proportionality, of a moral foundation that all of us understand, and just completely tosses it aside. I think this is why people laugh at him so much. I made a prediction when Donald Trump entered the race in 2016 that he would win the primary and win the election. I made several bets. I've talked about it before, based on the fact that all of his speeches were framing every single issue that we all face in terms of fairness according to proportionality. I look for that. That's one of the few things that I look for when I listen to politicians speak and take note of, because I want to know, is this person going to win this election? And Richard Wolff, it's not even on his radar. How can you have a conversation and not talk about the fairness principle? I mean, I guess he's talking about it in other contexts, but he just completely glossed over it here in a way that's just unforgivable.
When I teach courses in the history of economic thought, I usually start with Plato and Aristotle. Why? Because even though there was no such thing as economics, so defined back then, these were very smart men who thought about society and who understood that a part of society is the production and distribution of goods and services. So when they thought about society, they thought about what we now call the economy, even though for them it was handled with other conceptual frameworks. One of the things Plato and Aristotle discussed were markets, because the slave society of ancient Sparta, of ancient Greece, where they did their...
Look at Lance is already checking his email. Destiny's already checking his email. They're like, okay, this guy's going to be talking for 45 minutes here, not really saying anything. What's the point, Richard? Why are you talking again? What's the point of this? Ancient Greece? We're going to ancient Greece for this? We haven't come up with some ideas since ancient Greece?
Where they lived and where they thought was experiencing the arrival of markets.
Comic Artist Pro Secret says, this navel-gazing, orange-lusting, beatnik scumbag. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's funny. For the longest time, I did not like philosophy. And the reason I didn't like philosophy, I blame specifically on people like Richard Wolff, because how are you... There's a bunch of very, very fascinating things in philosophy. But this is not fascinating. This is completely cherry picking from philosophy to make some obscure point of view that nobody should in their right mind be making. Which if most of your interactions with philosophy is through somebody that does that kind of thing, you're going to hate philosophy. Like if most of your interaction with philosophy is from the wokesters on Twitter talking about Derrida and Foucault and how what an idiot you are for not reading Derrida and Foucault, who are just, I mean, mind-numbingly boring as philosophers, then you're going to hate philosophy. You're going to absolutely despise philosophy. And that was my thinking for a long time. Philosophy is just a joke. Philosophy is just navel-gazing nonsense. Show me, I'm a pragmatist. I care about reality. I want to know how things can help me. So, but there is a lot of super interesting stuff in philosophy. And I actually ended up getting past it after, careful attention to more interesting philosophers, Hume, Kant, or Kant, however you want to pronounce it, Bentham. There are a lot of interesting things. Utilitarianism is fascinating. If you're interested in moral philosophy, a lot of people turn to philosophers, but I'm more interested in moral psychology, which is a little bit different. The evolutionary origins of ethics, I think, are where it's really at, where it's really entertaining. But some of the philosophers obviously got it right. And it's good to point those out along the way.
It's for slaves, buying and selling slaves, and markets for the produce that slave labor generated.
See, the only reason, Richard, and this is what I meant about the cherry picking of philosophers. I listened to Ben Shapiro's show, and Ben Shapiro is great on politics. His analysis of politics is great. But when he gets into this ethics stuff and this philosophy stuff, he completely loses me. I read Ben Shapiro's book and I was expecting smart political analysis. And what I got was the same exact thing that Richard Wolff is doing here. Ben Shapiro wants to make some point, oftentimes a point that I agree with, but he wants to make it by using some philosopher from 500 years ago, which I'm not into doing that. I would much rather look at evidence and reason to actually come to my conclusions. So
they discussed it. And by the way, both Plato and Aristotle didn't like markets. Plato wanted to abolish them.
Plato and Aristotle didn't like markets. Therefore, he is correct. And today we should hate markets. Let's talk about what Genghis Khan liked, okay? I don't know if we want to construct a world around what ancient people enjoyed, okay? Genghis Khan was probably the most famous rapist in all of human history, okay? Let it go. Sometimes you got to let ancient history go. We're living in a new world now. The reason why Richard Wolff is picking this stuff is he wants to tie capitalism to slavery. He wants to basically say capitalism is slavery because he ended up at the bottom of the social economic hierarchy. That's why he wants to say that. He's at academics generally end up at the bottom of it ain't fair. It ain't fair. I think our academics are underpaid, undervalued in society, but I didn't make the rules. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Well, I guess technically that's what Richard Wolff is doing. I might have to re-examine that. Don't hate the player, hate the game, because this is all about hating the game, isn't it? But yeah, you're not going to change. You're not going to change anything by cherry picking from history, going all the way back to Plato and Aristotle and trying to make an argument that they got it right for our times. Not a good thing to do.
Aristotle disagreed. He said they're not good, but it would be so disruptive of society now to get rid of markets that we have to find a midpoint. And what he proposed was a rigidly socially controlled market. That way you wouldn't have to undo the system, but you could reduce its negative consequences.
So he's basically saying that Aristotle agreed with modernity, because that's exactly what we have. We have a regulated market, a well-regulated market. So you can't sell people snake oil.
Which he enumerated, and build up its positive ones. So for 5,000 years since then, people have made all kinds of critical comments on markets. No one needs me for that. And we don't need Marx for it either. And Marx was very clear in my reading, and I understand different people read.
John Cole says Aristotle was pro MMT. You're such a badass. How did you know that?
The same text. And
maybe I'll do a stream on Richard Wolff and MMT, because Richard Wolff is not actually a fan of MMT at all, because obviously MMT is in favor of people working. MMT is against UBI, and they all want UBI. So,
and come away with different interpretations. But in my reading, Marx begins with commodities and markets in volume 1 of Capital, but within a very few pages, he takes us to the other place in the economy in which he was much more interested, namely production. What happens before or after the market. After, in the sense that you buy the inputs, the tools, equipment, the raw material, and you buy the labor power. You hire workers, and then you put them to work, and then you have an output, and then the market shows up again because you sell the output. But Marx was not primarily interested in the buying or the selling.
See, Richard Wolff basically sees himself as a historian, so that's why he's just going this history lesson that nobody cares about. We need to advocate. These people on the left, the people that are angry at Richard Wolff and angry at the SERS for letting this debate happen, they want pragmatic answers. They want tangible answers. They want tangible arguments that they can argue with people on Twitter. This whole, you got to go back to ancient history, is not winning anybody over. Sad guy. I'll read some super chats. Maybe you guys have some interesting questions. I'll fast forward when I go back to the video, because Richard Wolff is just, oh my God, the level of boredom. The Butter Amble for $2 says, here's a metaphor about feudalism. Also, hi, Rags. A great joke, yeah. Obviously, Richard Wolff is going to bring up feudalism for the next 45 minutes. A new kid in town for $10. Well, welcome, new kid. Is there a reason why Richard Wolff believes there is no possibility for individuals to make their own decisions, especially when it comes to improving capitalism, rather than through government force? Well, the problem for Richard Wolff is that individuals are making the decisions that he doesn't like, that are bad for him. Individuals are making the decisions that are good for them, and often forcing them, well, not forcing them, bringing them higher in the social hierarchy than Richard Wolff. And Richard Wolff doesn't like that, because he gets super jelly. He's like, listen, I went to Harvard and Yale. I jump on a live stream with a streamer who calls himself Destiny, who I know absolutely nothing about and never will, because I'm too much of an elitist to actually Google his name before I jump on the stream. Obviously, that guy, he doesn't want you making your own decisions. He wants to make the decisions for you. Avi, right? Colabar for $5 says, Adam, thanks to you, the Distributus left a comment on my channel. Oh, really? I would thank Sitch, but really, why would I thank your subordinate and co-host? Lol. Yeah, well, I like that. A-Team speaking up. Yeah, Colabar has a great channel. He does 40K videos. I actually finished the book, the Eisenhorn book, the first book, and it was great, man. That book was awesome, totally awesome. And I get why Distributist and a lot of these, they call themselves right-wing reactionaries, why a lot of them like 40K, because it stokes those moral intuitions in me. Those traditional those traditional intuitions, those traditional hierarchical respect for authority. You know, we're badass and we're in charge. You know, morally clear environment is very. I see why people like the 40K. That book, the Eisenhorn book, the first book that I read, also it had some interesting discussion on the accumulation of knowledge, because they had that knowledge book thing that they were arguing over whether or not they should look at the book, which was a great parable to obviously the tree of knowledge in the garden of what is it? What the Garden of Eden. That's it. I remember. I'm a normal human being. Yes, that book was super cool. I have another book I haven't queued up yet, but yeah, great suggestion. And Cullivar does videos on 40K and talking about this stuff. His videos were the ones that made me think, well, do they have books on this stuff that I could listen to while I'm working on the comic? So that's why I've been reading it. Mr. Demento. I don't know if Ethan's still in the chat, but don't make fun of my reading, man. I'm dyslexic. You're an amazing reader. I'm very jealous of that. Mr. Demento for $5 says, someone get Richard's head out of his you-know-what. I swear to God, please, guys, if I start doing this, please put me out of my misery. I worry that when you guys meme on me for mentioning Why Nations Fail and Dictator's Handbook and Height and The Righteous Mind and stuff like that, I worry that I'm getting in Richard Wolf territory where I'm just saying dumb fucking shit over and over again that nobody cares about. Oh, they're coming to get me. Someone smelled the weed. Oh shit. I left the window open. God damn it. Just kidding. I live a fire station is like right down the street. So I didn't leave the window open. No one can smell my weed. Well, I do smell my neighbor's weed weed is legal in California, so it's not a huge deal. What was I talking about? I forget. Let me know. God, what the butter anvil for $20. Sure, let me bring this up. We always read $20 super chats immediately. The butter anvil for $20. Actually, though, please get Rags on with Mauler. It would warm my little heart. I'll give you money if you do it. I'm getting better at the incentive thing. I got to use all my characters now. Please get them high, Rags. We can try. We invited Rags on when we had Mauler on the Sunday show, and he had something else going on, so he wasn't able to join, but I'll hit him up. I mean, Mauler follows me on Twitter now, so I can send him a DM and see, let him know if he's interested. He might just jump in. Well, our Sunday streams are becoming grueling now, so I guess I'll just let him know. You can drop in for an hour, drop in for a couple hours. It's not a big deal. Drop in, take off, come and go as you please. Totally the opposite of my house when I was a kid. Your dad always says, this is not a hotel. You cannot come and go. Do kids still grow up with that? Do they grow up with the this is not a hotel line? That was a popular meme in my household. This is not a hotel. When all I really needed was a hotel. Come on. I turned 16. I got my driver's license. All I really needed was a hotel, to be honest with you. I'm so bad. Here, let's fast forward through some of Richard Wolf's nonsense. I feel like there might be some drama in here that we need to absorb. So from now on, we are fast forwarding Richard Wolf's nonsense about feudalism. The original question, which Richard Wolf has forgotten, Lance asked about the fallout from the debate. We all were stoked here. We wanted to hear the drama. We wanted to hear the drama about how much hate Richard Wolf has gotten after this debate where he made a complete and utter fool of himself. And his answer was feudalism. His answer was Aristotle and Plato and Marcus. Oh, wait, actually, I think the question was about markets. It was about they were upset with Richard Wolf because Richard Wolf is arguing for basically what we already have, which is a great position to be in. If you're arguing for what we already have, you've already won. He was saying state-regulated markets is what we have now. The socialists that were mad at Richard Wolff were like, why aren't we? I thought we were trying to abolish all hierarchy. I thought we were trying to destroy all capitalism. Listen, his audience was saying, listen, I went to Harvard and Yale. Okay. And my teachers at Harvard and Yale told me that we were trying to destroy capitalism as we know it. That we weren't going to stop until every single business in the United States was bankrupt. That's what my instructors taught me at Harvard and Yale and Brown and all of these Ivy League universities. That's what they promised me. And Richard Wolff, you're here basically saying you're friends with Janet Yellen and you're supporting central banks. What the fuck? We're rebels here. You need to step up your game, mofo. Get off your ass and step up your game. Okay, we're fast forwarding through Richard Wolff here.
He was interested.
Some in the chat, somebody said something 2 times speed. I don't like to do that. I consider the 2 times speed thing very inconsiderate because people want to listen back to the stream, and it's very difficult to listen to me at 1 times speed, which I can't do 2 times speed on me, and then another person at 2 times speed becomes 4 times speed. People want to speed me up and the video up at the same time. So since most of the views come after the live stream from people who are just interested and want to check in, I do it as a courtesy to them. Yeah, that's right. I love you guys. It's actually completely unfair though, since you guys are the ones that are giving me the super chats. So, but I hope that you are okay with that out of respect for those people who are going to listen later. And you might want to listen later too. You might want to fast forward through this nonsense.
In the what he called the
you might want to back up the stream right now to the very beginning and start listening at 1.75, which I do often, very often.
Relations of production. Hint. That's where he was interested. And the reason, he explains, is that name capitalism, then they get
20 seconds.
The difference, the value of the wage, the extra
40 seconds.
The more
he's still going. He's still going here.
Then he word man live with it, folks. They right there in production.
That's a minute.
I'm going to show it to
fast
you.
Forwarded through a minute.
Then I'm going to explain how that
we fast forwarded through a minute. He's still going
by a tiny minority.
Let's keep
in
going.
Every capital. Show you all of capital E. Marx point home.
Yeah. Of course.
So yeah. I
went 30 seconds.
Last point. Again, I'm going to exaggerate.
I just wanted to hear what Destiny was laughing about when we missed it. I went another 30 seconds. So 1 minute and 30 seconds.
But to drive the distribution of apparatus, secondary persuaded by crude market, when the price that the scarce who don't have much money out, they can't, is a race. Morally, like for this good, it's obvious that we do something. I'm happy. Question that will work in that situation.
I lost track at 3 minutes.
How do they?
His last point is 3 minutes.
Production appropriation.
You know, I'm glass houses here. I talk a lot too, but I hope that I'm actually saying something of substance when I'm talking for 3 minutes. When I talk for 3 minutes straight, I hope that I'm actually saying something. I shoot for saying something of substance here. Did he even answer the question? I guess I'm fast forwarding. So I doubt he answers the actual question about why he's in favor of market capitalism, or is it I guess capitalism is market capitalism. What regulated capitalism? What's wrong with that?
And distribution of the surplus.
The regulations of capitalism came in because people were selling snake oil and stuff like that. People were getting ripped off. The market used to be buyer beware, and we changed it because more people were getting ripped off than not getting ripped off, which is probably a good thing. That probably increased sales considerably.
That's what has to be changed fundamentally. Last point. We've had market.
What? Oh my God. Oh my God. This is the second last point. I went 3 minutes. The last point was the last point.
It's with slavery. We've had markets with feudalism. We've had markets. to refer to capital literally every day. It's it from its because it was
Guys,
the
so what do you? What is?
relationship in history.
Right.
But the
God, what a
distinctive thing of
loser.
slavery
Oh, this
is the
guy's so
master-slave
stupid.
relationship in production. The distinctive thing
Capital
about
has nothing to do with markets. What does free enterprise look like with no market transfer? Like, how does it even make sense? Please, Professor, can you please explain?
employer.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's another thing that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, I guess Richard Wolff endorses the labor theory of value, which is just bonkers, completely bonkers. I don't understand how you can be an artist and accept the labor theory of value, because art is valuable because it's scarce. It's scarce. The scarcity of art is what makes it valuable. You do a print series and the number of, I mean, we see this in Comicsgate all the time. People want to know how many books we're printing because they want to know how scarce is this item. That figures into their thinking about what it's going to be worth in the future. And it should. It definitely should.
Employee contractual relationship that system has, which demarcates it from the slavery and the
So I went another 2 minutes. We're 5 minutes out, and he's on his second last point.
feudalism that preceded it. For all those reasons.
Oh, another feudalism take. Okay, I'm fast forwarding.
Which if we want,
Focus on
We finally got to a question.
yeah.
Hold on. Let's see if he summarized in the very beginning, in the very end here.
Demarcates it from the slavery and the feudalism that preceded it. For all those reasons, I don't focus on markets.
Yeah.
So he's basically saying because markets were a part of slavery and feudalism, that they are endemic. I guess. I don't know. I fast forwarded. So
But this would be my point, because you said if we wanted to say take a modern stance on this, you can separate the Marxian analysis from it, which I would be completely fine with. But the idea that perhaps
I don't even know if he knows what a
trying
market
to
is.
develop
Also,
things
I have
within
no
a
idea.
capitalist framework and system existing, right? Like, I don't think, and you can correct me on this, if you change the paradigm alone into a world in which we had a majority worker cooperatives, that would fix the same problems that are inherent into the capitalist system. Like, if I would define capitalism as being able to own and sell capital, right? Capital goods, whatever you want to define that as. Within that system itself, we have a majority of worker cooperatives, which I think is a much better framework. I think it's much more egalitarian, all of that perspective. But there's still the aspect of people who have more capital to begin with will have more power in society, correct? Especially when it comes to the influence in, say, politics. That was something else that was kind of crucial in the Marxian analysis of this. So that doesn't eliminate those problems. It kind of operates within a capitalist framework.
Well, it depends on what you mean by markets. I mean, every market that I've ever studied
so just to summarize, it sounds like Lance is saying that one of their chief critiques of capitalism is that it creates these extreme hierarchies, giving people at the top of those hierarchies more political power. It does give them disproportionate political power, but the thing that he's leaving out of the equation is it also gives the people lower down the hierarchy, the middle class, that political power. Political power and economic power go hand in hand. So as capitalism lifts people out of poverty, and most of these shithole countries are all poor people and all extremely rich people. There is no middle class because they don't have secure property rights, and secure property rights are the foundation of being able to start a business. You can go, if you have secure property rights, and most businesses are started by people taking out a second mortgage on their home, putting their home up as collateral and getting a loan to start their businesses. So in these nations where they don't have secure property rights because of socialism, the government can come in and take your property, or the government just on paper owns your property, even if you're living there, and take care of it. Then they can't get a loan, they can't start a business, they can't engage in capitalism, they can't engage in free markets, and they can't pull themselves out of poverty. Once they start pulling themselves out of poverty, that economic power turns into political power, and they can start a democratic process to vote the leaders out who are basically, crony capitalists who are just giving monopolies to their friends and family so that they can maintain power. This is all completely laid out in tons of books, lots of literature. This is well known. Janet Yellen knows this stuff. There are tons of YouTube videos knowing this stuff. You have to be willfully ignorant not to know this. This is basic stuff, very basic stuff. This is another reason why I can't stand this stuff, is because they stand under the banner that they're actually going to help people when they're tangibly hurting people. If you wanted to really help people in these third world nations, you would go in and try to establish some system of property rights in those places. The ruling class is not going to like it because they like to be able to, go to their dinner parties and say, yeah, I own all this land. All these people are my people. Yeah.
Ever worked in is contextual. It depends how a market works. Depends on the rules,
can't
the
answer.
regulations.
He can't answer anything. He actually can't have a conversation.
The market works. If you don't want inequality, for example, you don't want some people to have a lot of money that they can use in political influence compared to others. There's all kinds of ways you can constrict and constrain markets, which have been done historically precisely to prevent that sort of thing.
I just got to go to the chat while
from happening.
I can't resist.
We don't allow the wage to be determined by the market in the United States. We have a law which says there's a minimum wage.
That applies to like 3% of earners. The market does settle on most wages by far.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point Destiny makes. And I didn't know I don't know if that stat's correct, but if 3% of workers are only 3% of workers are minimum wage workers, then obviously the market is determining. There is the minimum. Most wages though are probably based on the minimum wage though. The minimum wage probably sets the floor.
We're not allowing the market to function. You're going to be taxed. We're taking money away from you. That's it.
I don't know if he actually knows what markets are. I legitimately don't know.
Into jail you go. We are constraining what the market can do. If you're concerned about inequality, if you're concerned about a whole host of social issues, then there are all these steps you can take. It's still a market system, but it's a market system that is not allowed to function in these ways and those ways. Then there are whole distributions in a market economy, so-called, that are not in the market. I mean, let me give you an example. When you go home to dinner tonight, and you sit down with your friends or your family, there's a division of labor. Some of you cook the dinner. Some of you set the table. Some of you take out the garbage. Some of you vacuum the rug. Okay, how does that get worked out? Well, you could have a market system. You could get 3 drumsticks of a chicken for 27 square yards of.
I would argue that it is worked out in a market system. It's just a different type of market, but it's the same. It's based on the same principles. It's fairness. It's fairness. We as human beings are constantly measuring what other people are doing compared to what we're doing. And, if someone is a slacker or a cheater, we want to shame and embarrass them as much as possible. And don't tell me that doesn't happen around. That doesn't happen around the house. Listen, you guys remember that horrible knife fight that took place where the woman basically tried to stab another woman and a cop had to shoot her and she ended up losing her life? That whole fight was started over chores, probably arguing over the division of labor in the household. We as human beings get very angry when people shirk their responsibility.
Carpet that you vacuum. No, I'm serious. You could arrange to distribute what each of you do to make the household livable. That would be a market, but I use it because everybody giggles when I say it. Why? Only because in our culture, we exclude that kind of arrangement. We arrange the distribution of tasks and the enjoyment of the fruit of those tasks non-marketedly. We don't allow
anywhere there's a division of labor, there's a market. How can you argue against that? Any division of labor involves a market. Just because dollars aren't changing hands, just because it literally is a barter economy where you're saying, hey, I'm going to do this and you're going to do that. You know, I'm going to do the yard and you're going to do the kitchen. That's a division of labor. That's a barter system right there. I do this, you do that.
The market to function. If you took out the garbage and when you were done, you came in from the outside because you had deposited.
I forgot the point. What is the point of this? Why are you bringing this up?
Deposited the bags of garbage into the cans outside, and you turn to the rest of the people in the room and say, I'd like $2 from each of you because I just took out the garbage. People would either throw something at you or laugh at you because it's preposterous. But of course it isn't. It's just that in our culture,
this is such a ridiculous argument because the response would be, listen, I did the things that I am supposed to do. You are not doing the things that you were supposed to do. We had a barter arrangement. I was going to do this. You were going to do that. Like because money changes hands doesn't make it a market. Yes, all these things are markets. It's very simple.
Market is excluded from the inside of the house by the same people who celebrate it outside the house.
The whole idea of hiring people and exchanging money for goods and services is you're paying strangers who you don't necessarily have the ability to barter with. It's so weird. What point is this? What point is he trying to make? I'm not sure I understand.
House, because they argue, you'll love this, outside the house, it's efficient. You see, inside the house, it violates the norms of a loving relationship among members of a family.
What? Oh my God. Are you telling me that there's no families? I thought the whole idea, it seems like allowances are a American tradition where you're paying your children a certain amount of money to actually do their chores and stuff. Money is actually changing hands. Oh, we figured it out. Allowances. Richard Wolff has never heard of allowances. Do people still do allowances? I definitely remember getting an allowance when I was a kid.
Your mother or father.
That's how my parents justified working me to the bone. They wanted to satiate some of that guilt that they had.
Would scold you for demanding money to take out the garbage, and they would give you a lecture that says, hey, this is a family. We take care of each other. We care about it. Of course, we like to do things for each other, and on that basis.
Well, I don't know what family he's talking about. Like doing things for each other? Come on, we do things for each other because we were blackmailed into it. We were guilt tripped into it. That's why we do things for one another. What's this guy's taking crazy pills?
We have a family. So
go figure, huh? You need a mark. So you're telling me that between you and 3 people in your house, you can figure out like what chores and everything to do, and you can't do that for the entire rest of the fucking world? Come on, dude. Come on. Do you really have to give your friend 27 drumsticks in order to convince him to take the trash out? Oh, well, if you guys don't need a barter system.
But this is so hilarious because also, you know, most situations where you have flatmates or roommates or, you know, housemates, whatever you want to call it, most of those situations break down over the division of responsibilities. You get the shirker that comes in and doesn't live up to their responsibilities, and the whole system falls apart. And that's just a house. That's just cohabitating to share rent. This argument is bonkers. Why is Richard Wolff making this argument? I don't even know.
inside your house between 4 people, then why would you need some sort of more complicated bougie market system to coordinate billions of transactions a day? Can't you all just come to the same types of agreements that your mom and dad do? Like, it's crazy that we use different things in different areas. Huh? Weird, huh?
Other crisis then, the one being of the unjustified hierarchy that the markets will impose upon people.
Aiden Paladin says, my parents gave me an allowance because it's kind of good thing to learn that work equals pay. Yeah, I guess that was part of why my parents gave me an allowance too, as well. They wanted me to also have my own money. So I learned how to manage money. I can't remember how old I was when I started getting my allowance, but I think maybe it was, if you're old enough to get an allowance, shouldn't you be old enough to vote? I mean, you're learning how to manage money. Shouldn't you learn how to manage politics as well? Just throwing it out there, Aiden. Think about it.
Because I think you would have to look at every way that the market produces, let's say, inequality of a certain sort. But I'll give you an example.
He's focused on the market only in terms of inequality. Most people are focused on the market in terms of like keeping people industrious, keeping people from slacking, focusing our energy on productive work, focusing our energy on work that people actually want, things that people need and desire at the very least.
Example, the Mondragon Corporation in Spain has a law.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's always the Mondragon Corporation. The Mondragon Corporation. The Mondragon. Oh, so boring. I might have to fast forward a bit here. I can't stream all day. I'm working on the comic. I'm working on Supervillains Anonymous. It's going great. We've got a tentative draft put together, and I'm spending more time with each page. I'm trying to spend 2 days on a page, which I know is I'm swimming with all these pros, these comic artist pros. Well, I'm sure doing a page in a day, but old Adam, this is my first book, so I don't necessarily, I can't give you guys a page that was done in a day. It's just not good enough. So
that governs the 100.
I think I'm going to go for another 30 minutes. So I'm not actually going to finish this video off. Obviously, don't get your hopes up. And I got some super chats to read, so I'll go, like 10 minutes more on the video.
1,000+ people that are part of that corporation. And that is that the best paid person cannot get more than about 8 or 9 times what the lowest paid person gets. That's a rule. Don't have to do it, but that's a rule. So that
the problem that I have with this argument that there should be a maximum wage. The problem that I have with that is that you want to structure an economy. Rent seeking is what you want to avoid, but you want innovation. Innovation is like the sweet spot. You definitely need innovation. So you want people who are innovators to develop businesses. You want your Elon Musk. You want your super innovators. You want your Amazons and your Googles and those kinds of things. So I personally think devoting resources to those people, you don't want to cut those people off from resources. So this is another critique that I have of the socialist system. It's like, how do you motivate those people? And I would even argue that most of the motivation that we have, even on the lower rungs of society, we want to be that big fish. So if you're saying that, no, that big fish can't even exist, you're going to destroy a lot of motivation even lower down the ranks. I know I was super industrious as a kid and like a serial entrepreneur, even as a kid. Even when I was in high school, I was this total serial entrepreneur. I was doing t-shirts and stickers and stuff like that and selling stuff. We would make concert t-shirts. We would go to concerts and sell our t-shirts, our own t-shirts in the parking lot and stuff like that. Come home with like a fistful of money. It was great. I really don't understand this not taking that motivation away from people. Even as a kid, I wanted to be the big fish. I wanted to have a lot of resources at my disposal. And I realized early on, business was the way to do that. So, but I realize other people are not necessarily motivated by that stuff, and they're all socialists. So, but the disrespect for the people that do want to do that stuff, even if you aren't a person that really is industrious and really wants to do that, really wants to, start a business, go out and make a name for yourself, whatever you want to do, move up the social hierarchy, you have to at some level respect that those people create tangible goods in your own life. I mean, if we don't have our Steve Jobs developing things like the iPhone, we don't get those cool toys that make all of our lives better. So that's a one place. And when Richard Wolff goes on his screed about Mondragon, whatever it is, I always ask him, even if you say we have this one example and the Mondragon was actually started by a priest, I believe, a Catholic priest. So if you have one example of the guy who starts a business and is a Catholic priest, he's basically doing it for the good of the community. You can't run an entire economy on businesses being started by people as generous as Catholic priests. You have to incentivize people to start businesses because it's a lot of fucking work to do these things. So therefore, if people are not going to play the lottery if there isn't the $1 million payout. Like people don't play the lottery to win $10. If you took the $1 million payout out of the lottery system and you made the top possible win $500, your lottery ticket sales would tank. They would drop off the charts. Nobody's focused. Nobody's playing the lottery because they want to win $500. Sure, winning $500 is nice, but you're not going to get the kind of sales that you get when people have the $1 million, sales skyrocket for lottery tickets when they're in the billions of dollar payouts. So if you don't have that, if you don't have a society structured where people grow up thinking I could be the next Elon Musk if I work my ass off, you're taking all the incentives out of the economy. You're basically turning America into North Korea. This is how North Koreans go to school. They're like, our dear leader is the only one allowed to be famous because he's a pestilent man baby. He can't handle anyone that's more famous than him. And if anybody does do well in business, our dear leader is going to take their money away from them and take their business and their innovation. What's the point of even trying or working or any of that? Oh, it's just ridiculous. I wonder if we let Richard Wolff talk for 4 hours straight, if he could actually answer that question. Something tells me no, he wouldn't actually answer that question.
Payment of a wage, which is a market transaction. The co-op as a whole buys the labor power of each of the members of that co-op.
Kava says a price ceiling on CEO salaries would be a disaster. Yeah, I like to make a distinction between innovators and rent seekers, because rent seeking is a problem. This is where Jordan Peterson talks about how hierarchies tilt towards corruption. Once you are an innovator and you get a lot of resources at your disposal, not everyone goes the Elon Musk route and says, okay, my first business, PayPal, was a huge success. Now I'm going to try to perfect the electric car. Now I'm going to try to get us to be a multi-planetary species. A lot of people get a lot of capital at their disposal and they think, I'm going to buy a bunch of rental properties and drive up the cost of housing beyond belief. I'm going to buy into Bitcoin and manipulate the Bitcoin market because it's so small and it's easy for me to do. I can basically dwarf the Bitcoin market. There's those people who are just, they will engage in rent-seeking behavior. So this is something that you have to be conscious of. So as long as I agree with you on the price ceiling for CEOs, in an innovation space, but I may have questions about whether or not those CEOs are in a rent-seeking space, a monopoly type space. That's my one caveat to that. I'm just gonna read some. Well, no, I'll do Richard Wolff for a little bit here. Maybe he's gonna make a point.
They have constricted that exchange so it cannot go outside of a certain range, because in their view, that renders an acceptable degree.
To be clear again, Mondragon is a confederation of co-ops, and what he's talking about only applies within a particular co-op. Within the whole of Mondragon, there are going to be people that out-earn dramatically people at the top between people on the bottom. That ratio does not apply to the entire federation.
So it's a great point Destiny. It's a great point Destiny makes. So Destiny's basically saying the example that he's citing even breaks that rule, because you have companies within the Modrion system where people make far more than the people at the bottom of the companies within the system. If you measure the disparity between the highest earning people at the most successful companies and the lowest earning companies, you're going to get the same kind of discrepancy you get in CEOs in the stock market. Will Carter gives me a super chat for $50. My God, that's so generous of you. Thank you so much. You must be, the Bitcoin must be paying off. Wolff doesn't really debate. He spends all his time berating you that your preconceived notions about communism are outdated and immaterial, as he retreats from the indefensible whole, extolling a modern communism that only exists in his head. Very true. Right on the money. That's like a perfect summation of what Richard Wolff does. And it's frustrating as hell. It's infuriating as hell, because you can't have a dialogue about this stuff. You can't actually talk about the real problems when everybody says, well, obviously, that problem is not going to exist in this fictitious system that we've dreamed up. Your understanding of communism is completely incorrect. Well, Destiny asks him to define his definitions in that debate, and never does. It's so maddening. And in the stream with Sitch, I said, I'm really interested in property rights, because property rights create wealth for people. They do. People work harder, and property rights give the capitalist system a way to lever up in these nations. Secure property rights are the foundation. They are the start. And most socialists are against property rights. So that's the biggest problem. That's really the biggest problem. Richard Wolff doesn't seem to be against property rights. And it's also infuriating when the socialists come out and say, they want to argue the difference between property rights and personal property. And they want to say that you're allowed to own property. Adam, just chill. Personal property's okay. You just can't own businesses. What? The whole point of establishing personal property rights is so that you have the capital to develop business property. That's the entire innovation cycle. Yeah, you need both. You need personal property and business property. You guys are knuckleheads. You communist socialists are knuckleheads. Obviously, the enlightened people here, we're not knuckleheads. We understand exactly what's going on. Here, I'll read some more super chats and we'll be done with Richard Wolff. I don't know that Richard Wolff is going to make another point. I'll probably listen to the rest of this. Here, I'll drop it in the chat for you guys if you want to listen to the rest of it after I'm done streaming. Pretty interesting. I don't know. It's like background noise, really. Richard Wolff is, if you're having trouble sleeping, Richard Wolff is kind of like the Ambien of socialism. He's the one that's definitely going to put you to sleep on socialism. The critiques of socialism are much better. I've read a number of books. Understanding Postmodernism by Stephen Hicks really rips into socialism in great ways. You should read that book. I think that book is actually on YouTube too. Somebody uploaded it. I think that's where I read it. I sneakied. I didn't actually get it on Audible, which I'm usually pretty good about. But all right, I have some super chats to brush up on. If you have any questions, obviously send me an @ I have the other chat up so I can see your questions and stuff like that. I should get better. I don't know if Ethan's still listening, but thanks for dropping by, Ethan. Ethan definitely is a master at business and promoting his business and stuff like that. Someone I look up to at getting better about that stuff. I'm very much more. I mean, I love talking to you guys. I love hanging out. I love arguing and stuff like that. But I'm not great at pitching our book. Once I have more artwork, I think I'll be better. But our campaign is doing swimmingly. Thank you so much for backing our Supervillains Anonymous campaign. And I did put a link to the description in it. Let me take a look real quick here and see what we're up to. I'm working my ass off trying to get it out to you guys as soon as possible. We have a December delivery on the campaign that I think we might be able to do earlier than that. Obviously, I'm being conservative because this is our first campaign and I don't want to get us into too much trouble. But since I'm doing the bulk of the work, it's really on me. So I'm not in a position where I'm waiting on other artists to bring me stuff back. I would like to hire some other artists to do some other, like it would have been nice. I should have had another artist do the A-Team cover and, well, I want to do the S-Class cover, obviously, but I should have talked to maybe Kelsey about doing a cover for us. Now we have so many variant covers. I don't necessarily know that we can. And I keep thinking, like, how can I commission something from Kelsey to actually include with the book? If you guys have any ideas, obviously let me know. So that's a place that I probably erred, but I erred on the conservative side because I didn't really know if we were going to do any business on this campaign. We're up to 47,345, which is great. Amazing business we're doing. And hopefully we can get the campaign going again, going up on a regular basis once we come out with some new artwork, which I'm working my ass off on getting done. So let me see. Something changed here? Let me go back to super chats here. Let me see. Where was I at? Cullivar. Oh, yeah. Cullivar. Good job on. I like Dave's videos. I like the Distributus. My first interaction with the Distributus was him asking to debate me and just debating me because I was an atheist. So he was like gunning for bear and totally mean to me. And I was like, dude, what the hell? I'm just here to have a friendly chat. I don't want to argue with you. Dave is the Distributus. He's a reactionary right-wing YouTuber, and he is a fan of Jonathan Haidt. And I just went into that debate assuming, oh my God, someone who actually has read Haidt and respects Haidt. Now they're drag racing outside. So I went into that debate expecting to have a much different conversation than we did. But actually, Sitch listened to that debate from, this was forever ago, and said, oh, I thought you did great in that debate. And I was like, wow, I thought I got destroyed. Andrew Clark for $2 says, do half speed. It'll make Wolf sound drunk. A-Team. Well, I should have read that sooner because that actually does sound hilarious. Can you imagine? Oh my God. They had the huge controversy about waterboarding a while back. I would rather be waterboarded than listen to Richard Wolf at half speed. Talk about torture. My God. Destroying my brain. Chris for $10 says, hey, Adam, you should check out Books Smarts. He's a streamer. Coverage of Destiny and Richard Wolf's debate. He had, in my opinion, probably the best take regarding their debate when it came to Richard's rambling. Yeah, I'll check that out. Book Smarts? Hell yeah, I'll check that out. I'm working on the comic like 10 hours a day. And I got to admit, I'm in the zone with drawing. I'm getting so much better at drawing. I was talking to my wife yesterday and I said, listen, I drew for like 50 hours straight this week. not only that, I'd not done a lot of digital until now. Like I just clocked 50 hours of drawing on a digital tablet, which is digital's a completely different game. I would say digital is a lot easier. Well, I guess in some ways it's a lot easier. I mean, I'm pretty good with a pencil, and pencil has a kind of texture to it that I honestly love. So I don't have my notes up here. Damn it. How am I going to remember this? Here, I'll type it in. Book smarts, YouTuber or streamer, I guess. Streamer. Twitch. Okay. Does he have a YouTube channel? I hope he does. Thank you for the $10, by the way, Chris. $10 to you're paying $10 to give me advice on someone to read. That's amazing. Oh my God, Hexadecimal. Hexadecimal says, speaking of torture, I got some dental work done. Don't trigger me. Don't trigger me, Hexadecimal. I love the fact somebody watched my social justice detective video, which if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to watch it. It's pretty amazing. Let me pat myself on the back some. So Nathan was asking me about Supervillains Anonymous, and I was saying Supervillains Anonymous, the story is amazing. I have the utmost confidence that you will love the story in Supervillains Anonymous. First of all, you have me and Sitch like beating each other up to make sure that this story is amazing, which is good as can be. It's got a surprise ending that you will never see coming and will thrill you. I'm working on the ending pages now, and it's so good. It's so good. And so he was like, yeah, but lots of people, well, I think I mentioned that in Deadline Junkies, I've probably read 100 first-time scripts, because in Deadline Junkies, I was dealing with screenwriters all the time. Generally, we had 20 to 30 screenwriters on our rosters. I mean, Deadline Junkies is now 5 days a week. There's probably 150 writers in there, but I've read hundreds of first-time screenplays. Remarkably, they're all very similar. They're all very similar. They're all a lot like that movie, The Room. You understand why The Room is a cult classic when you read 100 first-time screenplays. And reading those, like, you realize that, like, a lot of people think their script is great. Like, a lot of people have super confidence in these scripts, and they're not good. They're bad. They make a lot of rookie mistakes and stuff like that. And I said something to Nathan, who was on the other day. He runs a Clips channel, Sitch and Adam Clips, if you want to check it out. And he was saying, well, how do you know your script is good and you're not in that same boat? And I was like, well, I have experience. I'm confident. I'm not basing my judgment on just my gut intuition. Like, people really like Social Justice Detective. I still get emails from people asking me when I'm going to do Social Justice Detective 2. So that's obviously me. I wrote that. It was my idea. I directed it. I did everything in that. So, I mean, the feedback on that was phenomenal. And, I still have people asking me about the comic that I started with CT, Dick Smashers, which Dick Smashers, I just posted a table read of Dick Smashers, and everyone loved it. So you got to go by the feedback other people are giving you. If the feedback is predominantly good, then you got something. If the feedback is predominantly, this is interesting, let me give you some advice on how you could make this better, then you probably are not. Your script probably needs work. Most first drafts of things, and the first draft of Social Justice Detective was awful. I mean, that's just what you have to do. You have to give yourself permission to write the first shitty draft. I listened to a live stream, not a live stream. I listened to your boy Zach. I've been listening to a lot of Zach's videos these days, and Zach did a video. You guys should check it out. Talking about his process with Narwhal, and it was a great video. That video, talking about working through the second draft and how they were going back and forth. It's a lot like the same process that Sitch and I are doing. Sitch and I are working on pages, kind of developing them and developing the story at the same time. I mean, we did a script that probably went through 3 or 4 or 5, even maybe 6 drafts before we even started working on the comic. But now we're definitely, writing a bit and changing a bit as we're dealing with the pictorial medium as well, because sometimes you have an idea in the script how it's going to function on the page, and then when you actually map it out on the page, it just doesn't have the same kind of gut punch that you're looking for. So you got to change things. You got to adjust. There's some dialogue in there that, I'm rereading it after forgetting about it because we wrote it 6 months ago, thinking, wow, this dialogue seemed a lot better 6 months ago. We better punch this up. So I'll send pages to Sitch. I'll say, listen, the dialogue feels funky on page 24. Maybe you could look at it, and Sitch will go in and look at it and give me some ideas back, and we just go back and forth. That's a great way to work. The thing is, Sitch and I are both looking out for each other. So I don't want, if he comes up with something that's totally cringe and is awful, I tell him, and he does the same with my stuff. So having a writing partner is great, is great. I encourage people to do that. And you got to have, I have a special relationship with Sitch. We're used to beating each other up for fun. We are used to attacking each other viciously for entertainment purposes. So that's the kind of situation you want to be in with a writing partner. You don't want to get in a situation where you're writing a screenplay with your wife because your script may be good, but your marriage is probably going to fall apart. So it's got to be the right writing partner as well. Sitch, I felt there was hope because Sitch was super helpful in Social Justice Detective. Sitch was super helpful on Social Justice Detective. I did the first edit of Social Justice Detective, and his notes for that were like great things I hadn't thought of. And as soon as I was like, oh yeah. Like as soon as he said it, it totally clicked, and I imagined a whole different intro. Like the whole intro was reimagined from Sitch's feedback. It became vastly better. I think the intro is mostly based off of Sitch's feedback, and the intro I think is just phenomenal. It's so good. It's so good. But anyway, enough about me. Enough bragging about me. Cullivar for $5 says, Wolf uses a tactic of spaghetti on the wall. He has no argument and must keep throwing everything so it looks like something when it's just a mess. Exactly. Oh my God. Is this, I don't know, is this a sexist thing to say? But sometimes I notice this more in women than I do in men. Men seem to be ultimately far more practical than women, and also have the incentive to not want to talk as much. So they tend to get to the point. A man's speech tends to be, here is the point that I'm trying to make, summed up in a sentence, and then supporting evidence for that point, or the situation that led to that point, the whatever situation, whatever you're talking about came to that point. Women don't necessarily do that. Women like start at the very beginning of the story, and you're going through this maze trying to figure out what the point is. Is that not, I mean, I do notice it more in women. I do notice it. It's like maybe it's a sex maybe it's a biological sex difference. I don't know. Is that sexist to say? I feel like I also feel like if people recognize that, you're going to have better relationships, because you're going to be able to better communicate with the opposite sex the way to communicate that works for you. Like I've already had this conversation. My wife knows that is a difficult structure of conversing for me. And she just comes out and says whatever the point is, and then moves on from there. And it's fucking great. It's great. Best communication ever. Well, Chia says women are social creatures while men are tactical. That is so true. That is so true. And obviously not all. Like obviously, like I kind of break that norm a bit in that I am a very social person. So I tend to lean towards the feminine and the social aspect. Yes. But I'm very technical as well. So obviously, yeah. So yeah, Cullivar, I agree 100%. Yeah. He needs to get his shit together. He needs to you can't teach old dogs new tricks. Richard Wolf is not going to learn anything new. You have to be a special type of person to be an old dog that learns new tricks. I'm an old dog that learns new tricks, but I'm fascinated by learning new things. I love learning new things. I'm so stoked to be working on a comic now because, man, I would love to do. I have so much material. I spent my entire 30s like writing. I've 10,000 hours easily of writing experience that I feel like is wasted if I don't make things. Like that's why I made Social Justice Detective. I was trying to do things with other actors and it was just terribly hard, difficult, and expensive. They're really coming for me now. Jeez. So I'm glad to be working on a comic where it seems like if we can crowdfund a comic, we can do more and more of them. And obviously we'll get feedback from you guys once the comic is delivered. You guys can tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. And I'm thinking the next one we might even call Suit and Skull Crusher, because that's the main characters in the book, Suit and Skull Crusher. And Supervillains Anonymous, while it's cool, I think focusing on characters is much more accepted in the comics medium. So I think it might help us get the brand out there. Brian Bishop for $5 says, as someone who listens later, I appreciate your courtesy. Have a cookie. Well, thank you, Brian. Yeah, I figure a lot of people do end up, if you're doing something else and you don't have time, you're going to be listening later. So Becker the Hacker for £5 says, Adam, the Saturday stream is back. Becker, I apologize, or Backer the Hacker. That's it. Backer, I apologize if I don't remember, but someone left a really nice comment saying that they missed the Saturday streams. Was that you? Because that one person left a comment saying they missed the Saturday streams. And some people might have mentioned it on Twitter too. And I thought, maybe I'll just stream on Saturday morning. If it's a kind of a time slot that we did for a while. And my numbers are actually better than they were on Thursday Live. Thursday Live, I don't even think we hit 200 live viewers. And right now I have 312. I think we might have almost got to 400 viewers, which is great. If you guys are interested, I'll talk about I'm a lifelong learner. I'll dig into things. Somebody was wanting me to dig into the Great Reset, which I know nothing about. And I am fascinated by, I am kind of a transhumanist. I really am. I do believe that we will one day upload our consciousness into computers. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to mention. I watched last night with my wife all of the Love, Death, and Robots season 2. We lied down to go to bed. We were going to watch one episode, and we ended up watching all of them. They're all super great, and the animation is sick. There's one of them that we had to go online and look up whether or not it was live action. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, so that is super cool. I'm a madman for science fiction. I love science fiction. I love Death and Robots. Kills it on the visuals. They have one. My favorite one in the first season of Love, Death, and Robots was Zima Blue, which I think is controversial because some people didn't like it, but the animation in Zima Blue is amazing. And they have the same artist or team or whatever it is do the animation for one of them in the new season. And I don't think the story is as good as Zima Blue, but the story is good and the animation is sick. So you got to check it out. It's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, I mean, it's worth getting Netflix just to see that, maybe for a month. Mr. Demento for $5 says, I'd like to punch the Surfs a lot, many times. So you don't like the Surfs, huh? Lance does go on a tirade calling everyone Nazis, which if you have been in the line of that tirade, I completely respect the fact that you would like to you would like to get even. You would like to get even. Look at that. It's even in the language. You would like to enact your intuitions for fairness as proportionality, and you would like to exact the exact amount of pain and suffering he has caused you onto him. Yes, I understand. When we had the serfs on our channel to talk, and I preemptively said, if he called us a Nazi after, well, I basically accused him saying he was going to call us a Nazi after we had that debate. The discussion was on Kyle Rittenhouse, and he made it a point to not do that and to joke about how he wouldn't do that. So I kind of primed the pump for him not to do that, because if he did it, he would be proving me right. And the last thing he wanted to do is prove me right. So I know it's like, this is like, oh man, is it Eisenhorn? I think it's Eisenhorn. This is like Eisenhorn level of, I jetted into his mind and I controlled his mind. Okay. I might have gotten lucky, but I did take note that was a very good tactic and worked well. So I might use it again in the future. You guys are welcome to use it too. If you preemptively accuse them of calling you a racist in the future, then they will be right in doing so, and be wary of doing it. It's a great maneuver. Miss Artham 6 for 100 CZK says the problem with commies is that they don't understand that markets actually create wealth. They see them as wealth redistribution, which they can't control. That's why they hate them. That is a great analysis. That is totally exactly right. They see a bunch of people buying products that they want as redistributing their wealth to one person, when no, that's the whole idea behind capitalism. Whenever you exchange goods for services, you want the goods more than you want the money. That's the point of it. Both people walk away feeling like they got a good deal. That's the beauty of it. It's a win-win. Yeah, they're focused on the workers, so they're like, the workers are getting screwed over here. The rich capitalist is happy. The person that got the product is happy, but those workers are unhappy. Unfortunately, they don't realize that the worker is also involved in that exchange, exchanging their labor for money to live, which theoretically they're happier in that situation too. Unless, of course, you're a commie and you're just not happy about anything. Hitch Wagster for $5 says, you should do a cover for every wrench. My God, how many wrenches do I have? I think I threw a couple more. I hope you guys noticed that I gave some wrenches after this live stream Thursday. I like to sneak attack the wrenches, and I give wrenches out after the stream. So people come back to the stream and they're like, oh my God, I'm a wrench now. I hope you had that good feeling of coming back to the stream as a wrench. You'd been promoted and you didn't even know it. Stug looks vaguely familiar. I don't want to give wrenches have some powers that I'm worry about dispensing, because people get super pissed if you delete comments. So Sash Man, I recognize that avatar quite frequently. So I don't know if I'm prepared to give any wrenches out, but I do try to give wrenches out to everyone who's cool. Backer the Hacker doesn't have a wrench? I feel like I don't know. Backer the Hacker, were you the one that left that comment? If you are, you will get a wrench. If you're lying to me, I will take your wrench. Let's see here. The Wooster for $9.99 says, Adam, Have you ever heard of The Master and His Emissary by Ian McGilchrist? It's a much better way to conceptualize human psychology than The Elephant and the Rider. It analyzes left versus right brain dynamic. Yes, I have not read the book. Halfway through the conversation between him and Jordan Peterson just uploaded a conversation with him. Yes, I'm super interested in this. I actually stopped listening to it because I wanted to listen to the 40K book. Is it Eisenhorn? I think it's Eisenhorn. Yeah, that Eisenhorn book 1 is very good. So I wanted to get to the end of that. It was very interesting, and I wanted to see where that was going. But I'll probably listen to the rest of it today. The one critique that I have of that is that there seems to be some pretty prevalent sex differences in the structure of the brain that have to do with left and right hemisphere. Suppose that there was a study that was done where if women have a stroke in the right, I don't know if it's the right or the left hemisphere. It's not really, it's immaterial for this, for the point I want to make. But if men have a localized stroke on one side of the brain, they lose their speaking ability considerably. It's very degraded. And if women have the exact same stroke in the exact same spot, they don't lose their speaking ability near to the same level as men, which they postulate that men, it's just like we were saying before. Men have their speaking ability focused in one area of the brain. And if you have a stroke there, it gets wiped out. And women seem to have their speaking ability kind of decentralized around the brain in a way that we don't necessarily have good answers for. So that makes me question a little bit of the Ian McGilchrist argument and the Jordan Peterson argument that the brain is this, that we can make the kind of claims that they're making about right and left hemisphere. Every time they say something about the differentiation between right and left hemisphere, I always think of that study. And I think, how do you explain that one? I guess, maybe it is sex differences and there's more sexual dimorphism than we're even really aware of. But how do you explain that discrepancy if men and women's brains are that differently structured? Aren't Jordan Peterson and Ian McGilchrist having a conversation about men's brains? Is that what's going on? I don't know what the studies are. And a lot of these studies also, this is something that not many people know, but a lot of the studies that they've done on different things have been done with, well, the stroke, obviously this doesn't apply, but a lot of studies have been done just with men, because especially like drugs and stuff like that, because men don't ovulate. So, and the ovulation cycle evidently interferes with different tests that they do. So if a lot of our drug development has been done just on men as test subjects to avoid the ovulation cycle of women, you're only learning about men. That needs to be fixed. Like, since they realize that, they've been working on painkillers that are specially developed for women. They've come to the realization that men and women experience pain very differently, amazingly differently, to the point where they actually have different pain. We will have in the future different pain relievers for men and women. I know gender critical feminists are going to lose their shit when we have Advil for men, Advil for women. My God, it's going to drive them insane. All right, stop giving me super chats. I got to go. I got to work. I got to get to work. Hold on. I have a few more super chats and then I'm out. Wooster for $1.99 says, don't give me a wrench. It has lost all of its value. Wooster, you have to, I cannot believe the Wooster doesn't have a wrench. Don't even mess with me. Of course you have a wrench. Wooster's just messing with me. There's no way Wooster could go through the chat without getting a wrench. You're on every live stream we do on Sundays, Wooster. Of course you have a wrench. Sash, the man for 14 czars, says, give a wrench. I'd invite you on my first stream. Sash, I see your avatar on Twitter quite often. I'm going to give you a wrench, but guys, let me know. If any of these wrenches get out of control, I'll pull those wrenches. You'll lose those wrenches so fast. I'm kind of inclined to give Bandit 6 a wrench too. Bandit 6, I see you in a lot of live chats. I see you in a lot of live streams. Bandit 6, do you pay attention to Comicsgate? Are you a Comicsgate guy too? Or I'm curious. Let's see. I have one more super chat and I'm starving. I want some lunch and I want to work on the comics some more. FDD CSJ Jix for $2 says wrench anarchy, or at least wrench libertarianism. Is it? The freedom of wrenches. The freedom of wrenches. Yeah. Wrench libertarianism. I just think it's funny. People, new people. Oh, look at that. Wooster doesn't have a wrench. What the hell? I feel like I've abdicated my responsibility to life. Wooster doesn't have a wrench? How's that possible? I just think it's funny. I think it's hilarious. Like I'm going to go with I'm always going to go with the joke. I'm a comedy writer at heart. I always have been. My nickname, in my crew in high school, my nickname was King Funny Man. Everyone always knew that I was like the Joker. I was the one that I was there to make people laugh. I was there to crack jokes and make fun of things. Yeah, that was my lot in life. So I just think it's funny when new people come into the chat and they see, oh my God, every single person has a wrench in here. It's probably terrible. It's probably a bad way to go. It really is. It's probably not good. I'm probably giving wrenches to people who shouldn't have wrenches, but it's hilarious. God, it's funny. Oh my God, it's funny. Okay. One more super chat and then I'm out. So I guess I'll try. My numbers were great today and this was a lot of fun. So live streaming is sometimes like the haunted house or a roller coaster. Sometimes you're not in the mood for the haunted house or a horror movie. You're like, I don't want to be scared. This movie looks too scary. I don't want to go to this movie. This movie's insane. This movie starring Aiden Paladin and it has cannibalism in it. I'm out of here. This is a bridge too far. I can't handle this. A literal movie about cannibalism. I can't take it. This is going to gross me out. I'm going to throw up in the movie theater. I can't go see this movie. A lot of times live streaming is like that. You're like, I don't want to live stream. God, I want to smoke weed and work on the comic. I don't want to live stream, but as soon as you start live streaming, as soon as you're doing it, you're like, this is so much fun. I'm so glad I came to see this movie. I had no idea that Aiden Paladin would look so cool as a cannibalist. I had no idea. This is the best movie I've ever seen. Okay, one more super chat, and then I'm good. What? Hold on. I think I already read that. Oh no, Miss Artham 6 for 50 C6. I don't know what the denominations are. Wrench inflation went too far. Time to pull your MMT knowledge to practice and tax. Time to put your MMT knowledge to practice and tax the wrenches. You don't know how happy you've just made me. Just in the fact that you made a joke that just signals that you actually understand MMT, that you are not strawmanning MMT like everyone else on the internet. It's so infuriating to me to see people on the left Kyle Klinsky, strawmanning MMT. Academic agent, people on the right, strawmanning MMT. You don't know how it drives me, a truth seeker, insane. My God, you just made my day. That super chat just literally made my day. Yeah. Okay, guys, there's going to be no taxing the wrenches yet. That's not going to happen. Tune in tomorrow when Sitch and Adam will talk about critical race theory and make fun of Vosh for probably 10 hours. It should be a lot of fun. But thank you guys. This was a lot of fun. I will talk to you guys next Thursday and probably next Saturday as well as tomorrow. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.